You've probably spent a ton of time researching your first fly rod, picking a reel, and deciding which flies would end up in your box right now. And all that stuff matters, but it doesn't matter if you can't stand up straight in the river or if your feet are killing you because you picked the wrong pair of wading boots. Wading boots are a hugely important part of your success out on the water, but you usually don't realize that until something goes wrong. Maybe you slip on a rock and nearly break your fly rod. Maybe your feet are wrecked after a long day of hiking. Or maybe your boots just give out after one season on the water. That's when you realize, okay, I need some good wading boots, but what ones do I get? There's no one wading boot that's 100% right for everybody. Over the last decade, I've reviewed tons of wading boots for different fishing magazines, from your feature pack, really expensive ones, to the budget-friendly ones. So in this video, I'll distill everything that I've learned about boots, from the fit, to the comfort, to the durability, to the sole choice, so that you can pick the right boot for you. There's this river that all of us here at VFC love to go fish, but it's kind of a bear to wade. In fact, I used to avoid that river and others like it because I didn't want to feel like I was walking on bowling balls and trying to fight the current and just not able to move around confidently all day long. Once I found the right pair of wading boots though, that all changed. Now I wade rivers just like that with plenty of confidence, even if I still fall in sometimes. So if you've ever wondered if you need wading boots, the answer is yes. And I know some people might say, well, I use old hiking boots, or I'm just wearing my Crocs out there, and can that work? Yeah, absolutely it can. But wading boots, whether you use them with waders or not, make an enormous difference in your stability in the water and your ability to close that gap between you and all the good-looking water on the other side of the river. I even used old hiking boots myself when I started out fly fishing because I thought, they're not gonna make that much of a difference. Once I wore that pair out though, and I bought my first pair of wading boots, I was blown away at just how much of a difference they made on the water. There's three key things that wading boots give you that Crocs and old hiking boots won't. Safety and stability. Good wading boots are gonna help you navigate slick rocks, uneven riverbeds, and deal with all that current pushing against you. Comfort. Your feet aren't gonna hurt after long days on the water, whether you hiked a bunch or just waded a couple 100-yard section. Efficiency. You're able to move much more confidently with less hesitation, putting you in position to fish better water. All right, that sounds pretty good, but how do you pick the right pair of wading boots? There's like a bajillion of them for sale, and some of them are cheap, and some are really expensive, and some come with like fancy leather from the belly of a pig or whatever. How do you make sense of all those options out there? Well, there's 5 simple decisions to make that'll guide you to the best choice. Decision number 1, wading boots are gonna come with 2 different types of soles, felt or rubber, and they both have their pros and cons. Felt soles are great on slick river rocks. These things got more grip than a 2-year-old hanging onto that last piece of candy. However, they don't have a lot of traction for hiking. Snow and mud sticks to them very easily, and they are outlawed in some states because they can transmit aquatic diseases. Rubber soles got a lot going for them. They're great for hiking, they handle mixed terrain well, and there's all sorts of different sole designs for specific wading situations. However, they're not as grippy on slick rocks as felt. You can improve the traction of both felt and rubber soles with the addition of aluminum studs, spikes, or even bars. Adding studs to your wading boots does come with its own set of pros and cons. Studs will help your grip improve dramatically, and they're great in snow, ice, and really slick rivers. However, if you forget to take them off before you jump in your buddy's boat, they can damage the floor of boats and rafts. They can also add some extra weight and bulk to your boots, which may be uncomfortable on longer hikes. The sole type that you pick really depends on what kind of water you're fishing. If you're fishing a river with relatively easy access and not much of a hike, felt could be an awesome option to give you all that extra traction on these slippery rocks. But if you're out exploring the backcountry, rubber might be a better option because you've got all that good traction for those long hikes. Personally, the whole team here at VFC uses studded rubber soles. We love the traction we get for all the hiking we do, but they're also pretty stinking good in these slippery rivers. When we hop in the drift boat though, we either swap out to boots with no studs in them or just wear regular shoes. If you want more help picking the right boot and a detailed list of what boots we actually recommend, then you need to check out our wading boot guide. Everything in this video and our list of favorite boots is in there. Grab a copy at the link in the video description or scan the QR code you see on the screen. Decision number 2, you've got to decide between lightweight or supportive boots. Now, full disclosure, I've got dainty glass ankles that I can roll walking down the sidewalk, so I always opt for boots with more ankle support than a lot of my fishing buddies do. But as with everything, there's pros and cons to each, so let's take a look at them. Lightweight boots have a lot going for them, like they're going to weigh less, so you'll feel less fatigued after a day of wading. They can be more comfortable for long hikes, and they can be a bit more nimble in challenging wading environments. However, they don't have as much support for weak ankles, and they can sometimes be less durable than other options. Supportive boots are going to muscle on in and say, hey, Durant, I can support that dainty glass ankle of yours. They're also going to be really stable in rough wading conditions, and often these supportive boots are very durable. However, with that durability, you sometimes get extra bulk, a bit more weight, and they can be fatiguing to wear on long days. Again, our recommendation here is going to come down to answering a few questions about how you fish. How often do you wade aggressively? How far do you hike? How strong are the currents in the rivers you fish? Do you prioritize comfort or support? And how many days a year are you out on the water? Pick the boots that most closely match the style of fishing you do most of the time, and you'll be in business for a great day on the water. Decision number 3 is price. And I know there can be a sticker shock with some of these wading boots. I've seen some selling for like $500. Just like with anything else though, you really kind of get what you pay for when it comes to wading boots. The first pair of boots I bought, they were the absolute cheapest I could find, and they made it a whopping 2 weeks before they just fell apart. My current boots, they're not cheap, but they're showing almost no real signs of wear after almost 100 days of fishing. Our recommendation at VFC is to buy the best boot you can afford and to generally stay away from the boots that cost less than $100. In our experience, those are the boots that are most cheaply made, they're the most uncomfortable, and they are the most likely to wear out quickly. If you're really torn about which pair to buy, then consider this. A good pair of wading boots should last at least 5 years before they need repair or replacement. If you buy a $300 pair of wading boots and you fish about 30 days per year, that means your boots cost you about $2 per day. If you fish less than 30 days a year, then you probably don't need $300 wading boots. But if you fish 30 or more days a year, then boots in that price range, they're probably a pretty good investment. Now, I'm not saying that the only good pair of wading boots is $300 and everything else is junk, and that if you don't spend good money on them, then you're gonna be sorry. No, it's not what I'm saying at all. Instead, I'm giving you my 2 cents based on 20 plus years of being an angler and 10 years of reviewing gear. This is the stuff that I wish people had told me when I started making the investment in better gear. And if you want even more out of your investment, then make sure you wash and clean your boots well after each use. Store them somewhere that they can dry completely, as that'll preserve the lifespan of the stitching and all the glues used in construction. The fourth decision that you got to make is what kind of laces do you want? Now, you've probably seen wading boots with regular laces and then boots with those weird wires on them. That's actually the BOA lacing system, and it's got a lot going for it. Traditional laces are awesome because you get a more consistent fit around your entire foot. It's easy to dial in the perfect tension throughout the day. and they're very easy and cheap to replace when they break. Now, these laces can loosen throughout the day, which kind of sucks. They are slower to rig up, and they are absolutely no fun to tie up when it's cold and wet. BOA laces might be the most convenient thing since you realize you could DoorDash a can of Pringles to your front porch. You can quickly make adjustments to the tension of the laces, and they stay locked in and tight all day long. The downside is that they are more expensive, they're not very easy to replace, and they don't always tighten evenly over your entire foot. I used to be a huge fan of BOA laces. That was all I used. I threw away all my other boots and said, I don't need that crap. But over the last couple of years, I've kind of gone all the way back to the traditional laces camp, and that's firmly where I am now. Regular laces are a lot more secure around my ballerina ankles, and I can really lock my feet in place for tough wading conditions. Yes, they suck to tie up when it's cold and wet and snowy outside, but for me, the pros outweigh the cons. Decision number 5 that you gotta make is sizing. Now, this is really important, but it's also a lot simpler than you probably think it is. Every reputable boot maker, and I'm excluding the weird ones on Amazon, have a great sizing chart somewhere on their website. Some of them tell you to order the same size wading boot as your street shoe size. Others tell you to go one size up. The best advice here is really simple. Follow the sizing guide from the boot manufacturer that you end up picking. That'll ensure the absolute best fit. All right, you've made those 5 decisions. You, my friend, have done adulting today. Now what? Well, it's time to go buy some wading boots. Our recommendation here is to buy either one of the boots that Skwala makes. Now, Skwala is our official wading gear partner here at VFC, but we've been using their stuff for years, long before we ever thought of any partnership, and their gear, it's honestly the best we've ever used. Like I mentioned earlier, with my ankles that I can roll in honestly a stiff breeze, I want a boot that's stable and has a lot of high ankle support. So I've opted to use the RS boot, and it has done phenomenally for me. Alex really likes the carbon boot because they're lighter, they're more nimble, and they're actually designed to fit and feel a lot like a hiking boot instead of a wading boot. But, and I actually just found this out, he actually bought himself a pair of the RS boots too for the days when we're wading the really fast, deep stuff, and he wants a bit more support. Both of these boots have rubber soles, but they've got plenty of places for you to add some extra studs if you decide to. They're definitely higher end boots. I won't shy away from that, but for anglers who spend 30, 40, 50, or even more days on the water every year, they are definitely worth the investment. Again, you can find all this information and the list of the boots that we recommend in our wading boot guide. You can grab that at the QR code here on the screen or at the link below the video. And if you want to learn more about wading gear, you can watch our complete guide to buying waders. Check it out right here.